Hi, Melanie.
Hi, Andy.
You okay?
No, what are the lectionary writers doing? Why
You
have they
mean,
hacked this passage apart?
I know. And also, why don't they put it with verses 1 to 8? You know?
Or why don't they follow verses 18 to 26 with the next miracle?
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, so it is a bit of an oddity, isn't it?
Yeah, so we'll have to do our best with it. And there are
Uh,
some really good points in these passages, aren't there?
there are, aren't they? I suppose big idea, I would say, of verse of the first section 9 to 13 is really, Math Jesus's calling of Matthew, Matthew's sort of almost immediate response to Jesus's call, and sort of what an example to us.
And also the person who he calls is a sinner, and the whole kind of message of this passage is that Jesus came for the sinners. And in those days, you couldn't get a worse sinner. Well, maybe you could, a prostitute, perhaps. But other than that, the worst sinners were
Tax
tax
collector.
collectors, weren't they?
Yeah, indeed. Indeed, traitors, social outcasts, um, ripping us off, or wealthy because they've been ripping us off. What an awful person to call.
Yeah. Yeah. That's who Jesus calls. And Jesus
Yeah.
came for even the worst sinner.
I think a really interesting point almost right at the beginning is Matthew sitting at his tax collector's booth. Follow me, Jesus told him. That Jesus takes the initiative. It's Jesus does the calling
Mm.
straight away. And what does Matthew do? Immediate response. He gets up and follows him, or followed him, depending on your translation.
And isn't it interesting? Matthew doesn't ask, well, where are you going?
No, no. And also, Matthew goes alone, at least at first. He calls Matthew. Matthew gets up and follows. It's not as if he's part of a whole group or with his brother. You think of all the other callings we've had up to this point in Matthew. It's been, they've come virtually in pairs. But here it's Matthew on his own. And then what does he do? Well, he invites Jesus in to a party. He
Well, before
celebrates becoming a disciple.
before we get on to that, I just want to linger just a little bit with this idea of following Jesus, because he doesn't ask, where are you going? Or where do you want me to go with you to? And
Hmm.
Charles Price in his commentary makes the point that discipleship isn't about where we're going, but it's about with whom we are going.
Hmm.
It's the relationship, is the discipleship. And it's about being with Jesus and becoming more like Jesus. That's the key thing. um we know as Christians Jesus has promised that we go to be with him ultimately, but that's not what discipleship, that's what following Jesus isn't about, the end goal. It's about being a disciple now and shining as lights now. And that's
Hmm.
what Matthew is able to do. And of course he does it in his context as a tax collector, isn't it? Though he leaves his booth and he leaves everything behind, he doesn't leave his friends behind, does he? Instead, he wants to introduce them to Jesus. What a wonderful example.
And a consistent message, when Jesus calls people, what do? They go out and bring their friends, or introduce Jesus, or introduce their friends to Jesus. Ah, wonderful,
Mm.
wonderful.
But
Yeah.
then we get the punchline, don't we, really? Because not everybody's happy that Jesus has called Matthew and that Jesus is sat there talking and eating with tax collectors and sinners. There are the Pharisees.
Just before that, verse 10, while Jesus was having dinner at Matthew's house, many tax collectors and sinners came and ate with him. And, obviously Jesus with them. Just the sheer grace of Jesus to be in their presence, and actually to eat with them is almost just a step beyond. normal just being in the presence, to sit down and eat with someone was a sign of having or wanting a relationship with somebody. So Jesus wants a relationship with these tax collectors and sinners who are unclean, and their uncleanliness is going to, of course, as we see further on, transfer to Jesus, and Jesus is going to take their uncleanness, and obviously at the cross is then going to deal with it. But Jesus comes and accepts them and wants to eat with them. And he wants this deeper relationship with them. A wonderful sign of grace. And then, as you say, the Pharisees get worked up about it.
Yeah, and he is going to make himself unclean, and then a rabbi wouldn't do that, would they? This is a serious thing that Jesus is doing, which emphasizes the decision that he's made, but it gives Jesus a platform to make a really striking point.
But
Those who are well have no need of a physician, but those who are sick. We don't go to a doctor unless we know there's a problem. We're not going to go to Jesus unless we know that we are a sinner too. And that's the big point, isn't it? Is that Jesus came to call sinners, and we are those sinners. None of us, even the Pharisees who tried to keep the law perfectly, were not sinners. They all were sinners. But unless they
Mhm.
could recognize that, they couldn't come to Jesus. And the same is true for us, isn't it?
Why do you think the Pharisees though go to the disciples, not to Jesus? Verse 11, when the Pharisees saw this, they asked his disciples. They don't ask Jesus, they ask the disciples.
That's what people always do, isn't it? They'll go and moan to your church warden about you, but they won't necessarily come to you directly. Or they'll
Yeah.
write something nasty on social media
Mm,
anonymously, but they
yeah.
won't come and talk to you. It's just, people don't like to be challenged. They like to have the moral high ground, but they don't necessarily want to take it where they could get an answer they don't want to hear. But let me read you. I've got a great JC Rowell quote. I've
I
got
thought
I've
you
got a
might.
bunch of JC Rowell quotes, but I won't necessarily read them all. But this one I thought was really brilliant. This is about us being sinners. He said, "Let us not dream that true Christians can ever attain such a state of perfection in this world as to not need the mediation and intercession of Jesus. Sinners we are in the day we first come to Christ. Poor, needy sinners we continue to be so long as we live, drawing all the grace we have every hour out of Christ's fullness. Sinners, we shall find ourselves in the hour of our death and shall die as much indebted to Christ's blood as in the day when we first believed." And sometimes you have to remind people of that, don't you? When people have something's gone on in church life, or something's happened in another church, or a famous vicar has done something bad, and there's been a fair amount of that in the news recently. Well, he's a sinner. Is that news? I'm a sinner. You're a sinner.
Yeah.
Sinners sin.
Yeah.
Although we've been saved, although we're in the process of being sanctified, made more like Jesus, we still sinners. That's not cured until we get our new bodies and we're face to face with Jesus, isn't it? But then we skip from there. We miss out this little bit about the disciples being sort of questioned, or Jesus being questioned about fasting. The disciples of John
Hmm.
came to him saying, "Why do we and the Pharisees fast often, but your disciples do not fast?" Skips all of that really, and then we
Hmm.
we we get down to the first two of a little trio of miracles.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, these double miracles of the girl and the boy show us what Jesus does, revealing his power and revealing his compassion, and, even power over death. So while he was saying this, a synagogue leader, synagogue center of local life, comes and kneels before him, courteous. Does he worship him? Who knows? And says, my daughter has just died. And again, what I like about this, though, in comparison to what we've just been talking about, a synagogue leader seeks Jesus out. At this point, one must assume maybe desperation. He's tried other methods and he seeks Jesus out and recognizes there's
Mm.
only Jesus left with the answer. And so comes and seeks Jesus out. He may be desperate, but he's
Mm.
courteous. He kneels before him and says, my daughter has just died.
And I think that does give us a connection with what's just happened with the tax collectors, because sin is a problem that can't be solved outside of God. Even in the Old Testament system with the sacrifices, there's that recognition that a sacrifice has to be made, that you can't just waltz before God because you're a sinner. The only person who can solve that is Jesus himself.
Mm.
And here, this girl is dead. That's it. End of. You and
Yeah,
I have seen dead bodies. You know the finality of it.
yeah,
You can see when there's no life in a body. That
yeah,
the person isn't there. It's final. It's it. Yet this synagogue leader says, "Lay your hand on her, and she will live."
yeah.
Only
And
Jesus can heal her now because she's beyond all healing.
all it needs is one hand. Not lay your hands, plural, on her. It's lay your hand on her. You know, so, amazing. And she will
That
live.
is huge faith, isn't it? I think
Yeah,
that's huge faith.
yeah, yeah.
And
And
of
so,
course, Jesus does heal her,
and they get
which is
interrupted on the way.
yeah, they're interrupted on the way by another. So dead body's unclean. So you've got unclean body that Jesus is going to go and be in the presence of, and now you've got another unclean person, the
Yeah,
woman who's hemorrhaging.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So you've got Jesus here for the outcasts. You've got the tax collectors are outcasts. You've got the unclean.
yeah. You've got a girl, a daughter, a child, who again is going to be at least marginalized. She's not going to be taken seriously.
No, and now a woman who's been hemorrhaging for 12 years, that's a pretty hopeless situation as well, isn't it?
Yeah,
In the days before you could have hysterectomies and things, there wasn't much hope for this poor woman. She must have been
yeah,
living with anemia and all sorts of pain and discomfort and indignity,
yeah,
unclean all the time. She wouldn't be able to go and worship at the temple, would she?
yeah,
Nobody could be near her. She was married, her husband couldn't come near her unless he made himself unclean. You got all of that going on. And she knows that she shouldn't really be coming near Jesus. But she's just got this little bit of faith, hasn't she? If she
hmm
just touches the hem of his garment or the fringe of his cloak, then she'll be healed. Interestingly, lay one hand on the dead girl, and here's the hemorrhaging woman with one hand
yes,
on the fringe of the cloak, isn't it? If I only touch his cloak, I will be made well.
yeah. And then you get Jesus turns to her. And that struck me as interesting. He gives her his full attention.
Mm.
He doesn't just stand there and look down, but he actually turns and sees her. Again, I think we had this last week or the week before. What's the first thing he says to her? Take heart. His first words to her, this unclean woman who's probably desperate, she's confused, she's maybe tried other methods, she's an outcast. His first words are take heart, words of encouragement to her. And then even the use of the word daughter. I was reading somewhere that this is the first time Jesus refers to someone as daughter. And even that, that closeness, that family relationship. Um, he says so. He brings her into the community right at the very beginning. It's not rejection. "Oh, you're unclean. Go away from me, woman." But take heart, encouragement.
And then those words, which have been much misinterpreted in some circles, your faith has made you well.
Yeah, yeah. Not magic, but your faith.
I've got two quotes, right? Michael Green and JC Ryle make the same point, right? And JC Ryle's is much more beautiful, but I may read both because they make the same sort of question. This or the same point. Listen to this. This is JC Ryle. Our faith may be feeble, our courage may be small, our grasp of the gospel and its promises may be weak and trembling. But after all, the grand question is, do we really trust only in Christ? Do we look to Jesus and only to Jesus for pardon and peace? If this be so, it is well. If we may not touch his garment, we can touch his heart. Such faith saves the soul. Weak faith is less comfortable than strong faith. Weak faith will carry us to heaven with far less joy than full assurance. But weak faith gives an interest in Christ as surely as strong faith. He that only touches the hem of Christ's garment shall never perish. And Michael Green brings in the idea about that sort of superstition that's going on there as well, because it's a bit superstitious, and you get some of these people on the telly evangelists, making you buy a blessed handkerchief for I don't know how much money. Um, but he says it's only when we trust that we find salvation. The faith may be a last resort. It may be superstitious. It may be theologically deficient. But if it's placed in Jesus, it binds the sinner and the Saviour together. And that is what he came to bring about.
Yeah, yeah.
And I thought that's so true. If it's in Jesus, she just wants to touch Jesus's cloak because she knows that he's got the power to save her. It's not that the cloak is in some way magical. It's that Jesus and she just wants to be near to his power, doesn't she? Near to his healing.
Mhm. And the woman was healed, restored
Instantly.
to society at that moment. And what I love about that is how Matthews maybe put that in, especially with your faith has healed you, to show it wasn't magic or it wasn't superstition. It was Jesus who did the healing. So at that moment,
Yeah.
he heals.
And then we
And then,
get back to the house now with the
yeah,
dead girl.
yeah, 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 yeah. We've got all the professional mourners there. Must have
Yeah.
been a
So
little
she's been dead
like,
for quite a bit now.
yeah.
And I think
So
that's
the,
important too. She's not just swooned, you know. She is actually dead and she's been dead a while in a hot country, long enough to get the flute players in and the
yeah,
crowd.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But she's not dead. She is asleep or but asleep. And he gets laughed at. So it's not permanent.
Yeah, that's what Jesus is saying. So Jesus
Yeah,
isn't saying, "Oh, she's in a coma, mate. I can
yeah.
fix it."
But she,
He's saying that he can raise her from
yeah,
death as if she were sleeping, and he's
yeah,
waking her up.
yeah,
And he
yeah,
takes her by the hand, and she gets up.
yeah. A bit of tenderness there as well in the text. He takes her by the hand and she gets up. And he's
Yeah.
got rid of the crowd so she isn't disorientated. You know. And then news of this spreads through all the region, which is the whole purpose of recording it. You know, the report spreads about
Mm.
Jesus and his power and compassion. That's
So
what I love
Jesus,
about this story is that it shows Jesus's power and it shows Jesus's tenderness and compassion. I love it when he says to the woman in 22, take heart, daughter. those first words are compassion and love.
And Jesus does show this, the power of God. There's no doubting here that Jesus is exercising the power of God. Only God can forgive sin. Only God can raise the dead. Only
Hmm.
God can do the impossible. So here's Jesus as God. But look who he's come for. He's not
Yeah,
come for the important religious people. He's not come for the people who look like they're good. He's not come for the people who have got a load of money can pay him. He's not come
yeah,
for any of those people, though he has come for them as well. But here we
yeah,
see he's come for the sinner, the
yeah,
hated, the
yeah.
outcast,
Best.
the unclean, the
Yeah,
overlooked.
yeah, 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 yeah,
And I think that's just wonderful. When you think about it in the context of power today, if you think about it in the context of Trump's America, maybe, where the people who've got the most money have got the biggest voice.
yeah,
And if you please Trump, then you'll get favors. And we see that all over. We see that in our own country as well. We might see that
yeah,
even within the church. We might see it in certain employments. But here, Jesus is for the weakest,
yeah.
and they're not
Wonderful.
favored.
Yeah,
And that takes us right back to Old Testament promises, doesn't it?
yeah, yeah. Wonderful.
So yeah, so a great passage. Just wish it wasn't so hacked up.
Yeah, yeah. These lectionary writers.
I know, I know. Well, there we are. We'll enjoy preaching it.
I'm not.
You're
I'm not.
not?
No, I'm not preaching this Sunday.
Wow,
Yeah.
I am.
Well, enjoy it. Have fun.
Thank you. Oh, enjoy not preaching.
Yeah. I'm going to be sitting there, critically analysing somebody else. Oh,
Well,
I
do it
am.
kindly.
Yeah, okay. Terha.
Bye.